When Marcus was 9 years old, he noticed something. The kid 2 streets over had a pack of 10 ballpoint pens. He'd bought them at the dollar store for $1. Then he sold each one individually at school for 50 cents. $5 from $1. Marcus watched this happen and thought, that's not luck. That's a system. Nobody taught the kid that. No teacher gave him a worksheet on profit margins. No parent sat him down and explained markup. He just saw a gap between what something cost and what someone would pay, and he stepped into it. Marcus was 9. He filed that away like a piece of code he didn't know he'd need yet. By the time he was 12, he had his own system. Watches, not expensive ones. The kind you find at flea markets and weekend stalls. Beat up, scratched, needs a battery watches that nobody wanted. Marcus would buy them for $2 or $3, clean them up, replace the battery for $1, and sell them at school for $12 or $15. His classmates weren't buying a watch. They were buying something that looked good on their wrist and cost less than a movie ticket. Marcus understood this before he could have explained it. He understood that value is not what something is worth. Value is what someone believes it's worth at the moment they hand over the money. He made $60 in his first month, then $90. Then he got better at sourcing, better at cleaning, better at presenting. By the time he was 13, he was clearing $200 a month from watches and small electronics he'd buy, fix, and flip. His parents thought it was a hobby. His teachers thought it was a distraction. His school counselor sat him down in year 9 and told him he needed to focus on his GCSEs if he wanted a good future. Marcus nodded. He went home and listed 4 more watches that evening. Now here's where the story gets complicated. And I want you to stay with this because the complicated part is the whole point. At 16, Marcus's 2 closest friends were Jake and Priya. Jake was also not interested in university. But Jake wasn't building anything. Jake was drifting, spending money as fast as he made it at his part-time job, convinced that something would work out, not sure what, not doing much to find out. Priya was the opposite. Priya worked hard in school, not because she loved it, but because she had a plan. She wanted to be an architect. She needed the degree. There was no shortcut to what Priya wanted, and she knew it. Marcus looked at both of them and understood something that most adults take decades to figure out. The question is never university or no university. The question is always, do you have a system? And does your path serve that system? Priya's path served her system. Her system required the degree. Jake had no system. For Jake, skipping university just meant skipping structure without replacing it with anything. Marcus had a system. His system didn't require a degree, but it required something most people underestimate. It required him to keep going when it stopped being exciting. At 17, the watch business plateaued. Marcus had saturated his immediate market. The same 30 kids at school could only buy so many watches. He needed to think bigger or think differently. This is the moment that separates the people who build something real from the people who just had a good run for a while. Most people quit here. They take the plateau as a sign that the thing doesn't work. They move on to the next idea. They chase the next version of exciting. They never compound anything because they never stay long enough. Marcus didn't quit, but he did change. He moved from watches to a broader model. He started sourcing on online marketplaces, buying underpriced items from people who didn't know what they had, selling to people who did. Collectibles, vintage electronics, limited-run trainers. Whatever had a clear gap between what the uninformed seller charged and what an informed buyer would pay. He wasn't just flipping products now. He was developing a skill. The skill of seeing value before the market catches up. By 18, he was making more money per month than most of his friends' parents earned at their jobs. He didn't go to university, not because he was against it, because he had something specific he was building, and a degree in anything he could realistically study would have slowed it down rather than accelerated it. This is the distinction that almost nobody makes clearly. Skipping university is not a philosophy. It is not a personality type. It is not a statement about the system. It is a strategic decision that only makes sense if what you're doing instead is more intentional than what you would be doing in university. If you are 17 and you have a system that is working and growing and teaching you skills that compound, then yes, The opportunity cost of university is real and significant. If you are 17 and you just don't want to go and you're not sure what you do instead, then you are not Marcus. You are Jake. And Jake's story does not end well. Stay with me here. Because at 19, something happened to Marcus that he didn't see coming. The platform he was using changed its algorithm. Overnight, his listings dropped in visibility. His sales fell by 60% in 3 weeks. He had no salary, no fallback, no parent company absorbing the loss. Just him, a spreadsheet, and a problem to solve. This is the part of the entrepreneur story that the Instagram posts leave out. The nights where the system that was working stops working. Where the market shifts and you didn't shift with it in time. Where you have to figure out whether you are adaptable enough to survive this, or whether you built something fragile without realizing it. Marcus survived it. He diversified. He moved some inventory to different platforms. He built a small newsletter of buyers who trusted his sourcing. He reduced his dependence on any single channel. But it cost him 4 months of stress, reduced income, and 2 relationships that frayed under the pressure. He was 19. Most of his university friends were in their second year, stressed about essays, going to parties, not thinking yet about the life they were building. Neither path is easier. That is the honest version of this story. The university path delays the hard part. You get 4 years of relative structure before the world requires you to build something real. The Marcus path front-loads the hard part. You face the market at 16, 17, 18. You learn faster. You also fail faster. And you do it without the safety net of a qualification to fall back on if everything collapses. By 22, Marcus had built a sourcing and resale operation that had grown into something that required real infrastructure. He hired his first employee. He rented a small storage unit. He had systems for finding inventory, pricing it, listing it, shipping it, and handling returns. He had also taught himself about accounting, because losing money to bad record-keeping hurt once, and he decided once was enough. He had taught himself about negotiation, because leaving money on the table when buying inventory also hurt once. He taught himself about customer psychology, logistics, cash flow management, and the difference between revenue and profit, which are not the same thing, and a frightening number of people treat them as if they are. Nobody taught him any of this in a classroom. The market taught him. The hard, immediate, financially painful way that markets teach everything. And here is the thing about that kind of education. It sticks. Priya graduated at 22 with a first-class degree in architecture. She was brilliant. She had skills that Marcus did not have and could never have built the way she did. She joined a practice she believed in and began building the career she had always planned. Jake was 22 and still not sure what he was doing. A series of jobs that hadn't gone anywhere. No system, no compounding, no plan that survived contact with reality. The difference between Marcus and Jake was never university. The difference was intentionality. Marcus had been building a specific skill set with a specific goal in a specific direction since he was 9 years old. Jake had been waiting for something to make sense. Universities don't create that quality. And skipping university doesn't create it either. You either bring intentionality to your path or you don't. And if you don't, then the path doesn't matter much. You'll drift through university the same way Jake drifted through everything else. Marcus is 26 now. His business turns over more in a month than he earned in his first 2 years combined. He has 4 people working with him. He is not a tech founder. He is not famous. He will not be on the cover of a magazine. He sources things, understands their value, sells them to people who want them, and builds the infrastructure to do that reliably at scale. It is, in the oldest sense of the word, a trade. He learned it the same way people have always learned trades. By doing it. By making mistakes that cost real money. By getting better because getting better was the only option. And somewhere in a school right now, there is probably a kid watching another kid sell pens for 50 cents each from a pack that cost $1. Some of them will think, that's clever, good for him. One of them will think, that's a system. I wonder what else works like that. That second kid doesn't need anyone's permission to start. They just need to understand that starting is not enough. You have to keep going when it stops being exciting. You have to learn from what goes wrong instead of running from it. You have to build something that compounds, not just something that earns. And you have to be honest enough with yourself to know whether you are Marcus or whether you are Jake. Because both are possible. And only one of them ends somewhere worth going.